All right, guys, today we're going to be doing something a little different. The Contender series comes back next week, the week of UFC 305, so that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the 2024 Dana White Tuesday Night Contender series. There's 5 fights on the first week of the show, and we're going to get it started with the first fight up between, let's see, Lonair Kavanagh taking on Antoine Ho. Both 6-0 undefeated in their pro MMA records. I watched tape on both these guys. Kavanagh reminds me a lot of Nathaniel Wood. He has that in and out, light on the front foot, kind of bouncing in and out style. He likes to throw a lot of empty leg kicks, which I think could get him in trouble against a fighter like Ho. I think Tuan Ho could, just crash the pocket and land a big shot, potentially hurting Kavanagh. But I do think that the biggest advantage in this fight for Kavanagh is the fact that he's going to use his wrestling, his grappling, and his top control. Now, don't get me wrong, Antoine Ho has some submissions in his career. I mean, he is a well-rounded fighter. 6-0, 1 win by submission. He got that win via a knee bar. He was able to roll underneath his opponent, get on the side to get the angle, and then execute a vicious knee bar. But he has given up so much top control time, he has given up so much time on the ground, that I feel like Kavanagh is going to be able to compete on the feet. I think the bigger power comes from Tuan Ho. If Tuan Ho wins this fight, it's going to be, crashing the pocket, using that long lead hand. He likes to measure with that lead hand and trying to come right down the middle with that cross, trying to come around the side with the hook. I mean, he has one-hitter knockout ability. So if Kavanagh doesn't mind his P's and Q's and he plays a little bit too patient and plays a little bit too loose in terms of his guard, he might get caught right down the middle and get clipped and get put down. It would not surprise me one bit if Tuan Ho was able to upset a lot of people and just knock out Kavanagh, because he does leave his chin exposed and he has been rocked before. But I see a bigger hole in the grappling defense, the wrestling defense, and the ability to give up top control time on the side of Tuan Ho than I do in the striking defense or striking defensive irresponsibility on the side of Kavanagh. I like Kavanagh. I think he probably wins by decision. I think Tuan Ho is tough enough to potentially make it the 15 minutes. I think this fight would go the distance unless Tuan Ho lands a big shot and knocks out Kavanagh. I think the knockout is on the side of the power striker in Ho, who is very, long, likes to use his reach, and he's very loose and relaxed on the feet, but he can get clipped as well. So I see a bigger hole in the defensive grappling and the fact that I think Kavanagh is going to be able to use his wrestling and control that top position, look for submissions, and either maybe finds a finish with ground and pound or a sub, but I think he wins a decision. So I'm going to go with Kavanagh to defeat Tuan Ho via 29-28 unanimous decision. If there's a knockout, though, I would think it comes on the side of Tuan Ho because he is explosive and he definitely can catch Kavanagh down the middle. All right, the next fight up on the Contender series is a battle between Meng Ding taking on Rami Hamed. 12-3 for Hamed, who's ranked number 8 for welterweights in Florida, and 34-8 for Meng Ding, who is the second-ranked welterweight in China. I'm going to be honest, I don't know why Hamed is on the Contender series. He ended up fighting a guy who was on the Contender series before, in Isa Isakov, who fought Markel Medeiros. He got knocked out with that knee in the first round, and Hamed ended up losing that fight via submission in the second round, got taken down, got controlled. The guy's got power, he can throw combinations, pretty well, but I don't think he's technically that good, and from what I've seen on tape, I don't really think he's better anywhere than Meng Ding. Ding is a very tall, long welterweight. He uses his reach very well. The only thing I think Hamed can do is get in his face and make it a brawl, but he's going to be open for counters from the much more technical Ding. I mean, there's nothing else I can tell you. I'm not going to lie to you. I think Ding is way better anywhere this fight goes, but if Hamed can get in his face, make it dirty, I've seen Ding get clipped before. I've seen him get dinged, I guess. I've seen him get hurt. I've seen him get rocked, and, he can be knocked out and can be submitted as well. But I think from a technical perspective, from an experience perspective, I think Ding is going to be able to just kind of outland him, land the cleaner shots, and catch him coming in with some good counters. And I think Ding probably gets a KO in this fight. I'd say probably first or second round knockout for Meng Ding. I'm kind of surprised Hamed is on the Contender Series, and I'm not trying to talk crap about him or anything like that. I'm really not trying to talk shit. Just from what I've seen on tape, I don't think this guy is very good anywhere in any one particular area. He can mix it up pretty well, but he just seems very wild, very open for counters. And the only thing I will say is that this guy has vicious low kicks. And if he chops the lead leg of Meng Ding, who's mainly a boxer more than a kicker, that is probably going to be his path to victory. He's got a lot of KOs with just low kicks from what I've seen in his regional tape and some other tape. So I think if Ding can not avoid those low kicks, then maybe he gets stuck stationary and gets knocked out. That's kind of the path to victory for Hamed. But if Ding times those low kicks and calf kicks with a straight right down the middle, times it with the check hook as he steps in, sits down and throws that left hook or fires with that right cross, I think Ding's going to ding the chin of Hamed, and I think he knocks him out. So I'm going to go Meng Ding to improve to 35-9, even though I don't think the Contender Series goes on your record, but I think he wins this fight by knockout. I'm going to go Meng Ding first round knockout over Hamed. I think he's much better from what I've seen. Up next, we have a battle in the flyweight division, I believe. Featherweight division between Jose Delgado, fighting out of the MMA lab, who comes in with a record of 7-1, taking on Ernie Warez, who comes back with an undefeated professional record of 8 victories and no defeats. He was a former A1 Combat champion. And I'm going to be honest, he was supposed to have a different opponent. It was supposed to be Icaro Brito. Now he's got Jose Delgado. And I don't know what the odds are for this fight, but I kind of like Delgado. I'd venture to say he's probably going to be the underdog. But he trains out of the MMA lab under John Crouch, Benson Henderson, Jared Cannonier, just to name a few, Mario Bautista. And this guy's striking is very clean. He moves around very well. He switches stances pretty flawlessly, which is something you'd expect from guys from the MMA lab. Between orthodox and southpaw, throws good low kicks to the inside and outside of his opponent's leg. He can throw lead head kicks, rear head kicks. Has some pretty vicious head kick rocks for his opponent and knockouts. When I looked at Warez, man, this guy has a lot of power. He throws big, heavy shots. He's a decently technical striker, but the main area where he's going to want to take this fight is to the ground. I think he's going to look to get those takedowns, push Delgado up against the cage, use some powerful punches to close the distance, and then get takedowns. I do think Warez has an advantage when the fight hits the mat. But on the feet, I think Delgado is the much cleaner striker, where I'd say that Warez probably has more power. He's just a bigger, more built guy. He throws a lot of heavy shots, mainly relies on his boxing more than his kicking. But, he's 8-0 as a professional. He's got, 2 wins by KO, 2 submissions, and 4 decisions. So most of the time, this guy does go to decision, but he can KO you and he can submit you. So he's a well-rounded guy. But just from what I've seen and the fact that he trains out of the MMA lab, you can't take that with 100% certainty when breaking down fights, because just because they train at the gym doesn't mean that they're going to run through whoever their opponent is. But I do like Delgado. I think this is one of the most competitive fights on the card for the first week of the Contender Series. But I like the swiftness, the smoothness, the stance changes, the kicking ability from the lead and rear legs. I like the way he moves on the feet, and I like the way he puts his combinations together. I think Warez is going to have the wrestling advantage. That's probably how he wins, is by getting those takedowns, pushing him against the cage, and landing some ground and pound and looking to set up a submission. He's good at taking the back and things like that. But, I watched a fight with Ernie Warez where he took on Abdikabel Calder. I think that's how you say Abdikabel Calder, and he won a unanimous decision. That was back in March of this year. I thought that could have been a split decision for his opponent. I thought Calder could have won that fight. He got a lot of takedowns. He got a lot of control time. He was able to win minutes just based off that control time. And yeah, he lost the 3rd round, but I thought he could have won the first 2 rounds, honestly. I don't see how you make that a unanimous decision for Warez. I really don't. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. but I think Delgado's cleaner. I like the camp that Delgado trains out of. I like his swiftness on the feet, the stance changes, the footwork. He's very long for the weight class, and I think he can compete on the mat. He will be at a disadvantage, but I think he's got enough skills to cover the holes in that regard. So I'm going to go Delgado. I think Delgado wins by knockout. I've seen Warez get clipped. I've seen him get rocked. I've seen Delgado get rocked too, but I'm a little bit less worried about the durability of Delgado than I am about Warez. So I like Delgado here. Sorry. I'm going to go with Jose Delgado to win this fight by knockout. I think he gets a second round KO over Warez. Warez is good. It wouldn't surprise me if he got the takedowns and got a submission or a ground and pound finish, but I think Delgado is the more well-rounded fighter, and I think he trains out of the better camp. So give me Delgado, second round KO in this fight. Right, up next we've got a battle in what I believe to be the light heavyweight division. Yes, between the former LFA light heavyweight champion and Bruno Lopez, coming in with a record of 12-1, taking on Michele Saziani, or Saziani, I'm sorry. Yes, Michele Saziani, coming in with a record of 13 victories and 2 defeats. He is from the Caucasus Mountains, so you do have to take that into consideration because a lot of really solid mixed martial artists come from that area. And Lopez fighting out of Brazil. Lopez was actually on the Contender Series before, and he lost via knockout to Brenderson Ribeiro, who I think came into that fight as like a 3-1 underdog on the money line. And he got knocked out pretty early in the first round. Well, not early, but knocked out in round 1. Got caught with a good hook into a straight right hand and got sat down and then finished with ground and pound. Came back, won via arm triangle choke against Marcos Brigajao, and that was at LFA 175. He was the main event. And listen, I think that you got to think about it this way. He's been on the Contender Series, but he lost. But a lot of the times when these guys come onto the Contender Series a second time, most of the time they get their win in their second fight. You know, it happened with, I'm trying to think, Rodolfo Bellato, who fought a fighter who another fighter fought that we talked about earlier on the card. And I think Lopez is going to come into this fight motivated. He's got very good wrestling, solid jiu-jitsu, solid top control, looks to take the back, put the body triangle in, get a submission. You know, I think he is going to be having to mind his P's and Q's when it comes to the striking on the feet, because I think Saziani, he is pretty powerful. He gets a lot of knockouts. He gets a lot of knockouts early, and the fact that Lopez got knocked out in the first round in his last fight on the Contender Series against a guy who I believe hits not as hard as a guy like Saziani, it's probably going to be, you know, the danger zone for however long this fight stays on the feet. I would give the advantage to Saziani however long this fight stays on the feet. When it gets to the ground, he can grapple, you know, he can get takedowns, he can control from the top, he can land vicious ground and pound. The more dangerous fighter is Saziani, but the fact that Lopez was on the Contender Series before, the fact that I believe he's fought the higher level competition, I am going to go with Lopez to win this fight by submission, but I would not be surprised if he lost. Part of the reason I'm going with it is because, like I said, most of the time when guys come on the Contender Series for a second time, they tend to be able to get that win back that they didn't get the first time they were on the show. So that's part of the reason I'm going with him. I'm not confidently picking Lopez because although I think he has a very well-rounded game, I don't think he's as good as some people may tout him to be. You know, I will say on the regional scene, he knocked out Gregory RoboCop Rodriguez. He got clipped and hurt in that fight as well, but he was able to land a big shot and knock him out. So out of the two fighters, Lopez has the higher quality wins. You know, beating RoboCop is no easy feat. So I'm going to go with Lopez by submission. I'll go Lopez second round, late second round submission. But if Saziani was able to crack him on the chin or get into a top position after he hurt him on the feet and finish him, I mean, he's a powerful guy, so it wouldn't shock me. I'm not crazy about the durability of Lopez, but I think Lopez wins this one. Second round submission in his second time on the Contender Series. So give me Bruno Lopez, second round rear naked choke submission over Saziani. And now we are at the main event for the first week of the Contender Series. It takes place in the middleweight division between the undefeated Mansour Abdul Malik at 5-0. He is ranked number 97 out of the middleweights in North America, taking on Wes Schultz, who's ranked number 6 in the U.S. Midwest for 185 pounds, coming back with a record of 6 victories and 1 defeat. This is striker versus grappler to a T. The powerful striker, the heavy-handed fighter is Abdul Malik. I really think he can clip Schultz and just beat him up, and I kind of think that's what's going to happen. We've seen Mansour get clipped before. We've seen Malik get clipped in some of his fights. He's been rocked, but then he comes back and finds a big finish and is able to get his opponents out of there. This dude is a powerhouse. This dude can land vicious ground and pound, one-shot you on the ground. He can land big shots on the feet, and this guy is going to come forward and look for a finish. I mean, he's 5-0 as a professional mixed martial artist. All of his wins so far, I believe, have come by finish. Ground and pound round 1, KO round 1, submission round 1, KO round 1, KO round 1. Yeah, this dude's a finisher. Like, he's coming forward, he's going to get in your face, and he's going to try to beat the brakes off of you. Now, when you look at a guy like Wes Schultz, Schultz is going to try to use the aggressiveness of Malik against him, get takedowns, try to take his back, rack up minutes, rack up control time, look to land, get a rear naked choke, put the body triangle in, get to the mount and land ground and pound. The one thing I will say that Malik has to watch out for is the lead left head kick of Schultz. Schultz can sneak those head kicks up very quickly, and I do think that's something that Malik may not be expecting. He's probably just going to expect to run through this guy on the feet, but if he runs into one of those head kicks when he's not expecting it, maybe off of a level change, he feints, comes up top with a head kick, I think Malik can get clipped with one of those because he fights with his hands down. He kind of fights with reckless abandon and just comes forward, and he reminds me of like a brute fighting style. Like, he can get takedowns, he can wrestle, but that's not somewhere you want to be against a guy like Schultz. But the power, the striking, the knockout ability, the finishing upside when it comes to the KO, that all goes to Abdul Malik. And I do think that he is going to be able to get the job done here. I'm going to go with Mansour Abdul Malik to get the job done via round 1 knockout. I think this is going to be a statement for this guy. I think that this type of guy is what the UFC is looking for, coming forward, always looking for a finish. But as we know on the Contender Series, a lot of times on the Contender Series, man, these underdogs, they come through. You know, the Contender Series is like the story of the underdogs. They can come through, they can find a way to win, and most people, I mean, they could be 3, 4, 5-1 underdogs. I mean, just look at Brenderson Ribeiro. He was like a 3-1 underdog. There's been multiple times. Cesar Almeida was an underdog on the Contender Series. There's multiple times that these guys come over, and they're expected to get ran through by these prospects. But the thing is, most of these prospects, at least on this episode, aside from Meng Ding, they don't have a lot of experience, so we don't really know how good they are. But I think Malik is going to get the job done here. It wouldn't surprise me if Schultz hit him with something because he was disrespecting his striking and then jumped on his back and got a submission. So if you're going to take Schultz, it would be Schultz by sub. I like Mansour Abdul Malik. I'm going to go with Malik. First round knockout over Schultz. I think he's going to beat Wes Schultz, and I think it's going to be a brutal finish, but maybe a sprinkle on the Schultz by submission would be a decent idea because I think he does have the advantage when the fight hits the mat from a pure jiu-jitsu perspective. But yeah, we're going Mansour Abdul Malik, first round knockout to end off the first week of the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series. If you like my predictions, as always, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and land a switch kick on the notification bell so you catch all future uploads from the premier mixed martial arts and pro wrestling channel on YouTube. I'm your host, Double M, and I'm out.